Thank you very much, Steve. How do you follow that? Well, not sure, really. Probably by not following that. Can I add my welcome to you all? I had a horrible journey, probably lots of you did, but it was good to see the video on Manchester because we're all going to be spending a long weekend here. So it was good to see what we can all do. I think it was clever of Steve to put us in a room with no windows, so as the snow piles up outside, we can be blissfully unaware of what's going on. I've never stood behind a giant tweet wall or whatever that is up there, but feel free to tweet away. It's been a very busy year, but I'd like to start, as Steve's already referred to, and as I always do, by reminding ourselves on the journey we're on. We're on a journey to become a dynamic and growing media business. And as you know, we're not quite there yet. But we set out a very clear set of strategic pillars. These are they. And I'm just going to today reflect on the progress we've made on the first two pillars this year. That's to say, protecting our print brands and growing our existing brands onto digital delivery channels. Because we have made terrific progress in a year that has once again been challenging. The graphs here show on your left circulation, volume trends through the year for the Mirror, the Daily Record, and our regional daily paid-fors, and on the right, advertising in the first and second half of the year. And you can see how difficult the market is that we operate in. That said, we have, I think, done a terrific job of outperforming the market, which is our objective. I think we should particularly, and we are here in Manchester, we should particularly acknowledge those businesses that in fact achieved their budgets this year, achieved their print and digital budgets. And those businesses were the Manchester business and the North and South Island businesses. So I think we should give them a round of applause. Because it has been a tough year, and as you know, the second half, we actually saw some pretty encouraging trends over the first 6 months, but the second 6 months were more difficult, particularly for our national titles. But even there, we have continued to outperform and gain market share in a difficult market. And as Steve's already said, print will remain extremely important to Trinity Mirror for many years. This pie chart shows in dark blue the percent of our revenue that will come from print this year, 91%. And even in 2017, it will still be 84% of our revenue. So outperforming in print is vital. From a circulation perspective, we've also outperformed. The Daily Mirror, in particular, has outperformed every single month of the last 12. And I think the December figures are particularly impressive, with a 5.5% circulation decline, outperforming our peer group, which experienced a 7.1% decline. And also impressive are the number of e-editions that are being read each day, or PAVs as they're called. And if you add the almost 70,000 people that read our e-edition each day to our circulation and get a combined circulation of just under 1 million, that was just, in fact, it's turned out to be a sub 3% decline in January. So we are going backwards. We don't want to go backwards, but we are outperforming. And by acting as Trinity Mirror, we, of course, have enormous scale. We are the largest news brand group in the UK. We have 11.4 million readers who read our titles each week, bigger than any of our competitors if we act as one as we are doing and leverage our scale. So what is the future of print? This graph shows, actually it's music, and some of you may know that I used to run HMV, and in 2010 the CD market was declining at about 20% per annum. And everybody assumed that it would continue to decline at 20% per annum, and that represents our projections at the time of what we thought would happen to the physical CD market. And what has actually happened, you can see on the graph, is that it's actually started to stabilize. And in 2014, so the year that's just finished, the physical CD market was still bigger in value terms than all of downloading and all of streaming added together, which is quite interesting. And there were still 1 million selling CDs. Sam Smith and Ed Sheeran both had 1 million selling CDs, which, frankly, back in 2010 we thought would be impossible. Frozen as a DVD sold 4 million last year in the UK, Disney's biggest ever DVD. And the book market grew by 4% over Christmas. So it's very hard to predict what's going to happen. Even if you look at e-commerce, you know, John Lewis had a phenomenal e-commerce Christmas. But if you look at the numbers more closely, 56% of their orders were actually collected in store, which is kind of what you do when you go shopping. I don't know what's going to happen. But I do know what's going to happen over the next 100 days, because over the next 100 days, we, of course, are leading into a general election. And the role of print is going to be vitally important. That is, of course, if we don't bore our readers to death with endless opinion polls. And I hesitate to use this title, but I was just shocked this weekend, as many of you may have been, by the number of opinion polls in here. There was an ICM poll. There was a Survation poll. There was a Comres poll. There was a Lord Ashcroft poll. There was a Populous poll. In fact, you could think that the only thing you can find in quality papers these days is polls. Oh. Goodness me. There we go, my poll of polls. So, you can stay there. Let's move on to digital. As Steve often tells me, digital might be 10% of our present, but it's 100% of our future. And it has been a really phenomenal year this year in the progress we've made with digital. These graphs represent our audience growth in unique users and page views. And as you know, we've grown by over 100% year on year, and our audience at the end of the year was over 80 million unique users. And there is actually a chance we may hit 100 million unique users this very month. So we are doing a fantastic job, and all credit to our editorial and product teams for the fantastic job they've done in building our digital audiences. And if you compare our growth with our peers, you know, we are outperforming by a country mile. We are the fastest growing digital news group in the UK, as you can see here, where we are comparing ourselves to the Telegraph, Guardian, and Mail Online. And it's easy to grow fast if you're coming from a small base, but we're not coming from a small base anymore. And this year, our digital audience overtook both the Guardian and the Telegraph, according to ComScore UK audience, which is, again, incredibly impressive, second only, of course, to Mail Online. And our digital revenue, particularly our digital display revenue, has been keeping pace with that growth in audience. we had over 100% growth in digital display revenue, and all credit to you for achieving that. And I know it hasn't been easy, and I know we haven't had all the processes in place, and ad serving and trafficking and general systems have been difficult, and we've had issues with revenue recognition. These are vitally important areas, and I know Jenny Thompson is going to touch on that tomorrow. Really important that we get it right going forwards. If you look at how our publishing digital revenue is going to grow over the next 3 years, this chart shows display, classified, and other digital non-advertising revenue streams. And you can see that our ambition is to grow from this year's 32 million up to 82 million in 3 years' time. And the vast majority of that growth will come from display, which is the blue block, which will grow to just under 64 million by 2017. And we're very balanced with that growth between nationals and regionals. Regionals today account for more than half of our digital revenue, and even out in 2017 will account for half of our digital revenue. So every single person in this room, regionals, Media Scotland, nationals, have a role to play in achieving this number. So why is digital so important? There are lots of reasons for that. The first one is, of course, because it's growing. And because it's growing, we need to be part of that. Secondly, the city recognize and value digital revenue far more than they value print revenue, hence the valuations of some digital companies which have minuscule revenues, but they're on a growth trajectory and have huge valuations. And thirdly, digital is more profitable. If you look at this chart here, £1 of ad revenue in print, after you deduct simply the variable costs, the cost of sale and the cost of serving the ad, excluding editorial and overheads, creates 50p of profit. Whereas £1 of digital revenue creates 80p of profit. And so, if you look out 3 years, and you remember my earlier slide when I said in 2017, digital would just be 16% of revenue, but it will be 38% of our profit. So digital is very profitable revenue, and very, very important. Steve's already mentioned that the transformation in Trinity Mirror has been enormous. It has, and it's been a year of change. It's been a year where a number of people have changed, and I'd like to, in particular, welcome the new people who have joined us over the course of the year, a huge welcome, and to people that have taken on new roles. I think we have a phenomenal team in this room. I believe we have, by far, the best commercial team in publishing in the UK. We absolutely do. We have the team, we are match fit, we are ready, and we should be very pleased and proud and confident of that, as I am. So I'd just like to finish with this slide, which I know most of you have seen before. I use it all the time. I make no apologies for that, because it really tells the story of our transition to becoming a growing media company. The middle column represents this year, where our print declined by £33 million. We offset about a third of that with the growth in our digital revenue. This year, as we head into 2015, we need to offset the vast majority of our print decline with digital growth, so we become that growing company that we need to be. And I really look forward this time in a year to congratulating every business, every person, every team on achieving and exceeding the budget targets which we've set, and which I have every confidence that you will indeed exceed this year. So I hope that sets the scene for the next couple of days. I hope it stops snowing out there, but whether it has or whether it hasn't, have a great couple of days. And I am going to hand over now to Steve. Thank you very much.